Does an all-powerful, infinite God need anything? The proof I found, hidden in ancient Jewish texts, reveals a stunning loophole in Jewish law. Come learn how this technicality is connected to God's essential desire and how it holds the key to the very purpose of your life.
Does Hashem need us?
Hashem is perfect.
Does Hashem need us?
Of course.
Does Hashem need us?
Of course.
Shalom Aleichem. I'd like to give a big thank you for Yoni Katz bringing me onto his channel. This is Dr. Yosef Wolf, the Jewish astrophysicist. Today I want to discuss an interesting topic connecting Tanya with Rashi, Rambam, and a little Midrash. So it says here in chapter 33 of Tanya, this is a famous pasuk that brought down by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that the whole purpose of man and the purpose for which he and all the worlds, the upper and lower, were created are in order to have luis loy dira zoy patachtonim, in order to have a dwelling place here in this world. So that's the reason why we were created. That's why we're here. It's that simple. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe would talk about this over and over and over again. But what does it mean to have a dira patachtonim? So a few chapters later, in chapter 36 of Tanya, before we're chapter 33, it says here that it's a well-known statement. Shetachlis brios olam hazeh shenasav HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyos lo dir b'tachtonim. That the whole purpose for why the world was created, so that Hashem is because Hashem desired to have an abode, a dwelling place in the lowest realms. So there's a few key words here we should focus on. One is taiva. One here is taiva shenastava. Apologies. Taiva is something that means desire. And the Chassidus explains it reaches all the way to the essence. It's above intelligence. It's above will. It's above even pleasure. It goes all the way deep up or in towards the deepest part of an entity. And in this case, it's talking about Hashem's essence. Hashem has an essential taiva. It's part of his identity, of his atzmus, of who he is. And what did he want? He wanted to have for him, loy, and the chapter is lamed vav, loy, for him, a dira b'tachtonim. What does that mean? A dira means a dwelling. It's a difference between a house and a home. A house, there's a house over here, my neighbor's house, the house across the street. That's a house, it's a physical thing. But a home is where I feel most comfortable. So Hashem wanted a place, essentially from his deep down desires, to feel at home where? Tachtonim. And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain later in this chapter how Tachton means a place where his light's not revealed. Meaning, you should look like Hashem is not here, right? Because you look around, you see stuff, you see books behind me, you're sitting on a chair, you're at a desk, wherever you are, you look around, maybe you're drinking a coffee. So these are physical things. You don't see God. You can intellectualize about God. You can, philosophize that he exists or not exists. But you don't see him. His light is not revealed. And why? Why did he desire this? So it's brought down that he desired a meaningful relationship. The angels, they all see him. The malachim, they all see Hashem. They're not going against his will. But we are given the opportunity, in order to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with him, he gives us the opportunity by hiding himself. So he had a desire, an essential desire, part of who his identity is, to have a dwelling in a place where his light is not revealed. Now, how do you establish a dira? So this is an interesting concept. What is it that we do in this physical world that makes this world, physical place, a dwelling for him? And the answer is mitzvot, is commandments. Why? Why specifically doing physical commandments? Because the aspect of physicality is that we feel like we are our own matzias, as we'd say, or our own identity, our own existence. However, that power comes from Hashem's essence. Because only Hashem, in his true essence, is the only true existence in the world. We, in the whole cosmos, we feel like we are our own existence, but in truth, in reality, we're constantly created, something from nothing, from him, right? And so the power of Atzmus is shown, and in his essence is shown here in this world. specifically in the physicality. And when we take a physical object and we have free will to do what we want with it, whether we could choose to do something for kedusha, for holiness, or against holiness, or just for the mundane, and just because, that when we do the right thing and when we do what we're supposed to do, we fulfill the reason why Hashem created the world and why our souls came here. Because He wants it to be based on free will, Hashem needs us on our own free will to choose to do His mitzvahs. Where do we see this concept in what we call nigla? This was for Tanya, but maybe someone says, I don't know, Tanya, I don't know. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the Chumash. The Chumash. This is Parshas Bahar. This is Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 25, verses 42 and 43, where Hashem says, they are my servants, the Jewish people are my servants. I brought them out of Egypt. They should not be indentured as a non-Jewish bondservant is sold. And the very next pasuk says, you must not work him with back-breaking labor. Beforich, don't work him beforich. And the fear of Hashem. What does Rashi say? Malacha shalot litzarich, work that's unnecessary. And it gives additional examples, like to bother him, heat up this cup when there's no need for it. Or in addition, he goes on to other examples, like without specifying a time. So how can one know if it's necessary or not? That's why it says you have to fear God, because God truly knows if something's necessary or not. Okay, that's a Rashi. Is that really proof of what I'm saying? Well, interesting. Rambam Maimonides says here in Halachas Avadim, which is the laws of the servants, chapter 1, Sif 6, says it is forbidden to make any Hebrew servant perform excruciating labor. The same word, avoda befarich. And what is excruciating labor? No limit, and also one that is unnecessary. It's the same lashon here. Avoda she'eno tzarich. Avoda that is not necessary. And he gives additional examples here as well. Now, what's the connection between the Chumash with Rashi and Rambam? And Rambam's Mishnah Torah is a sefer of halacha, right? It's a code of Jewish law. So in the Midrash Shemais Rabbah 30-9, it says something very, very interesting. Because the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He, that's God, are unlike the attributes of flesh and blood. The attribute of flesh and blood, that's us people, is that we, puny humans, instruct others to perform. But He doesn't do it. So He says, you go do this, but I'm not going to do it. Almost being a little hypocritical, if you will. But Hashem is not so. What He performs, He says to Yisrael, to the Jewish people, to perform and to observe. So another way people often will say this is Hashem follows His own halacha, because now it's not always exactly physical, but He follows halacha. What does that mean? He follows His own Jewish law, because His Jewish law is His ratzon, it's His will, and that stems from His chachma, from His wisdom. So His will comes from His wisdom, and that's part of who He is. And so if Hashem says, now we can connect the dots. If Hashem says, they are my servants, we're an Eved Hashem, right? Yoni likes to say it's like Ivdos Hashem b'simcha. So we're His Eved Ivri, we're His Jewish servant. So it says, I brought them out. Do not treat them with forich. Do not give them unnecessary work. Well, if Hashem tells us, hey, you're my servant, what does it mean to serve Hashem? Put on tefillin, keep kosher. If you're non-Jewish, you have the 7 Noed laws, the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, light Shabbos candles, don't drive on Shabbos, eat matzah during Pesach. We're having Sukkot is coming up. I can't believe it already. The shofar with the Rosh Hashanah first, right? Don't eat or drink on Yom Kippur, and the other restrictions as well. These things mean that you're doing avodas Hashem, His service. So if Hashem tells us to hear that ram's horn, to not eat or drink on Yom Kippur, to wave a lulav and esrog on sukkahs, to sit in a sukkah, and if He follows His halacha that we can't give others work that's not necessary, so we're His Eved, so He can't give us work that's not necessary. You see how that works? If you like this, I would love for you to come on over, check out my page, The Jewish Astrophysicist, where we talk about topics like my journey, tackling some of life's biggest questions, where we see references of astronomy that's inside of the Torah itself. How can we prove the personal God of the Bible actually exists? And also, what about the discrepancy of the age of the universe? Is it 14 billion years old, 6,000 years old? How do we reconcile that? So these are the type of questions I like to approach. I'd love for you to subscribe and to watch some of them, and I'll see you over there.